Hello, nation. Welcome. Oh my gosh. We're going to keep it going. Welcome to the Haven Nation Show, your destination for all things Lock Haven Athletics. I am your very sick host, Nicholas Severini, coming to you live from the Bear Country Studios' basement in Avis, Pennsylvania. Ryan States is alongside me. Ryan, if you couldn't tell, it's the first time I'm yelling in a little bit, a couple of days. We apologize for the lateness of this show. I have been insanely sick. I've been working and sleeping literally since, honestly, the game on Saturday.
Yep.
And, maybe it's, from the result of the game itself. Maybe it's from...
It was a bit sickening.
It was a bit of a rough one on our end. But we're here, couple days late, not on our regular time slot. We are going to be on YouTube when this gets out tonight. And it's still a very busy part of the season. And you know what? The show must go on. Invoice or without invoice, we are ready to go.
Yes, we are. Yeah, it's been, like I said, I know a highly anticipated episode for some people, but it's been, you texted me, I want to say Monday, saying that, we're not doing it tonight. I'm sick as it can be. So I was like, all right. So as you can hear it there, so a little bit under the weather, but nonetheless.
We apologize for the audio quality of this. It's probably a terrible day for me to do this. For those of you who don't know, this is always the segment, the first 7 minutes or so, where we talk just about our personal lives getting into this week. We are going to have a new segment right after, but the Lock Haven stuff's in about 7 minutes' time as I look for my timer on my phone. Okay, so today I'm a life skills paraprofessional, obviously, at the high school. So we basically run a coffee shop every Thursday.
Okay.
So I'm about 20,000 steps in today.
Nice.
And I'm sick. So it's all coming together to be a real cacophony of misfortune for myself.
If you're playing Pokemon Go, imagine all the eggs you'd hatch getting 20,000 steps.
Can I tell you, I should have at least get the Pokemon Go going in the background. Unfortunately, that was something I forgot to do. It was also our first road trip. Before we talk about the game itself, I just want to say, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but this is only my opinion. We go to Indiana, beautiful drive there.
Oh, great.
Ride was beautiful. It was very easy, just a couple highways there. I think it might be my favorite road trip of the year.
Yes,
agreed. It might be my favorite road trip. The breakfast that we got at a cafe downtown was the best breakfast we have gotten on a road trip. The people, incredibly nice. The SID, from the SID to the people in the press box to the student commentators we talked to, genuinely some of the kindest, nicest, and most helpful people I have ever worked with, not only on a PSAC road trip, but in any sport. Anybody who is in charge of a big program, yada, 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 who wants to say, okay, how do we get a good chemistry, good atmosphere, good culture with the school should look at what IUP does in their press box, because genuinely some of the kindest folks we have ever met, and it came, in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, 30 minutes from Pittsburgh. We knew that obviously IUP was a long-standing program, but I've learned that the people are really what made it, and I still, coming back to Thursday, I'm still very grateful for all the help we got, and it led to a very excellent broadcast.
Yeah, and the press box itself was interesting because you have to climb a ladder to get to the second level, which I've never seen before. It's a very old press box. It's got to be 60-something years old. You mentioned you had some broadcast friends who referred to it as like a chicken coop almost, with the wire they have in the backdrop. There's no windows. It's an open slit with just literal chicken wire hanging up and like a ladder to climb up. But overall, it was a really great experience. Like you mentioned, the people there were super nice. Beautiful campus as well. I never driven through IUP campus before. It was such a nice place. That breakfast, I wish I could remember the name of it. That breakfast cafe was awesome.
Well, the thing is, it was a different name than what we put in. So it was a cafe on the main street, right next to what seems to be one of the town squares.
Was it Canella's?
It started with a C, and it seemed Italian.
I want to say Canella.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
We apologize to the. I mean, this isn't sponsored either.
Yeah, no.
But we do apologize for the name incorrectness, but
such a good place to eat. I mean, it was such a nice, good experience overall. Like you mentioned, the SID was super nice. Student broadcasters were super nice.
Oh, absolutely.
It was just overall a really good experience. Going there and doing the broadcast, like you said. I think it was my favorite one of the road trips we've done so far, dating back to last year, and then driving home. We had the Backyard Brawl on the radio. We had Georgia, Tennessee on my phone. So I was given some commentary on how that game was going while we were listening to the Backyard Brawl. Obviously, Nick, you being a big West Virginia Mountaineer guy, happy with the result.
Absolutely.
Just some really good college football on the way back, and just overall a great experience.
In a way, the entire experience reminded me of when I was doing student radio at West Virginia, honestly. Just meeting a lot of new people, a lot of excited people, ambitious people. It was a really cool experience all around. I do want to talk about one thing before we move on, though, and we go into the game. IUP. Keep the press box. I know. I'm sure. 100%. I am sure if you're doing it 6 times a season, it is HE double hockey sticks on earth. It sucks. I bet it does. Having to climb that ladder 5 times a day for like 6 different games, not even including soccer, which I'm sure they do there or whatever events they do. But as someone who will only go to it once every 2 years now, it was the most unique and enjoyable press box I've ever been in. Great view, but besides the view, it's the chicken coop behind. It's the fact that it's a sauna in there when it just adds so much character. Now ask yourself, would you rather have a press box with character or a forgettable one with all the cool modern amenities? You know what I mean?
Who needs air conditioning?
There is something special about spending 20 minutes looking for an Ethernet port.
Oh, yeah.
There is something there. There is something about turning around and seeing chicken coop wire behind. So, and I'm not joking. Like, this is me being very serious.
No.
I do not play a joke about my press boxes. IUP's press box is my favorite, not including Lock Haven. Again, we haven't gone to a couple of the West schools, of course, but easily one of my favorites, Westchester's up there.
I feel like
off the top of my head. But please keep the press box.
Yeah.
I love it.
I feel like the thing there is that you mentioned the character part. That's what, especially lower tier college football is all about, but even college football in general. It's about the uniqueness of the areas you go to and the character that these old-time stadiums have where, it's going to be weird. Like Lock Haven, you don't have stands on both sides because you have the view out to the valley below. That's character. IUP's press box, that's character. Like, that's stuff that even Shepherd's, the way they build it, like, it's kind of down, so when you walk into the stadium, you're descending down.
Yes. Oh,
that was my favorite stadium so far that we've been to.
You think Shepherd?
The stadium part of it. The press box, I agree, is IUP. But that's what college football is all about, is the character, the uniqueness of all the areas you go to. I am 100% in concurrence. I'm sure it is annoying to deal with if you are working at IUP.
I bet if people who work at IUP are seeing this, they're probably throwing something like, we want to change
it.
As somebody who, again, is only going to be there once every 2 years, I absolutely adore it. I absolutely adore it.
And that is a school that has the funds and where if they want to replace that press box, they will. And I'm sure they're going to eventually, but from experiencing it for the first time, I loved it. It was great.
So, not to backtrack, you said Shepherd's your favorite stadium.
Yes.
I know. Okay. You have to come back to me on what I think. I think that Bloomsburg is going to be my favorite when it's all said and done because I've been outside of it. I need to see inside of it in a couple of weeks, but I think Bloomsburg is going to be my favorite.
I just remember with Shepherd that, like, again, when you walk in and you descend down onto the stand, it creates that kind of bowl. They have the all the facilities right at the north end zone. So when you score a touchdown, you're standing in front of, like, their locker room. It's good, like, on-campus feel. IUP had that, too. I love college football fields that are in the middle of campus. Like, you just throw it right in the center of campus. I think that's great. Lock Haven used to have that. It used to be down where the rec center is, was where the old football field is. They moved it up to where it is now on top of the hill, which also you get the campus feel there, but it's a little more detached than what some of the other schools are. But so far, Shepherd's been my favorite. IUP is probably close. I am excited for Bloomsburg, though, because I've seen the outside of it, and it's been nice from the outset that I've seen.
So we had a lot of time there. We have not talked about the game, and good reason to it, but there is a lot to talk about, and I think there's a lot that we need to discuss because, listen, we're not bandwagoners. All right, we're here from beginning to end.
Keeping it real.
We're going to keep it. Yeah. We're going to keep a real deal Holyfield. I can't even get my sayings right. You can tell I'm sick, y'all. My apologies. This show is not our best. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. So, Lock Haven 10, IUP 42. Both of us had IUP winning. Yep. I had them winning by 2 possessions.
I think mine was by 1.
You had them winning by a large 1 possession. It wasn't,
I think it was a full touchdown, but it was a close game. But I had a low scoring game. I think you had it a little more.
I had more of
shootout.
a high score.
Yeah.
I had a scoring, I think, 17 points in the game. But I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to, something around there.
Yeah.
I think I only had IUP score maybe 31. They wound up getting 42.
Yep.
And listen, this was just a case of the talent, the execution, and everything in between was just better for the Crimson Hawks. They were coming off of that tough loss against Ashland. And, looking back, I certainly underestimated them. I looked at how they played against Ashland. I looked how they blew that 9-point lead at the half. I looked at how the offense struggled. I looked at how they had negative rushing yards on the game. And I didn't think Lock Haven was going to win, but I thought they would be more competitive. And the fact of the matter is 42-10 is quite generous to Lock Haven based off of the result of the game. Because while I do think there's a lot of room for improvement, I think just the pure talent was better for IUP in this game. And that's the big takeaway that I think I had was just if they were just a faster, stronger team. And that made the difference above everything else.
A 32-point lead does not show how bad that game was. Like, it was IUP dominated in every phase of the game. Defense, offense, special teams. It was Crimson Hawks by a long margin. And I think a lot of that for Lock Haven whittled down to it's a young team that just didn't look like you said, it didn't look like it had the caliber of athlete that IUP did. And I underestimated them as well. I looked at last year and it was like, you could argue that Lock Haven deserved to win that game last year. If they didn't have the boneheaded penalties at the end of that game last year at home, Lock Haven could have very easily won that game. And that was a good IUP team. So I looked at it as, well, Lock Haven lost some pieces. IUP lost some pieces. They opened up. They lost against Ashland, a very good Ashland team, but they lost against Ashland. What is the team going to look like moving forward? We didn't know, and now we know. I think IUP is going to be strongly considered a favorite in the PSAC West this year, and fortunately for Lock Haven, they might be playing the favorite in the PSAC West next week. But overall, it was a good old-fashioned butt kicking at the end of the day.
I will say I think IUP is still the third best team. I think Slippery Rock and I think Cal are ahead of them, but IUP, I mean, it's you look at the town. I mean, a lot of Division I transfers, and it shows.
Yep.
A lot of Division I talent on that roster from all sides. The one who stood out to most for me for IUP, Matthew Reevy, 365 yards, tied the single season record. IUP, all their history, single game record. My apologies for touchdowns with 5.
Wow.
Did have the one interception that was a pick 6.
Wasn't really his fault though.
Tip drill interception. IUP had another bad fumble in the game. Again, this is us purely nitpicking, and the reason why we bring it up is because Lock Haven got their points from it. So you had the pick 6, you had the fumble inside of their own 20 that turned into a field goal at the half. That was the 10 points that Lock Haven had, and in between, IUP really dominating on all facets. So I want to start on the offensive side of the ball. At the end of the day, there isn't really a lot in depth that we can go on. Even on both sides of the team, because we're going to repeat what we said. They were just simply outclassed.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And I'm going to put you on the spot here in about 10 minutes before we move on. And I'm going to tell you to name 3 positive things about this game.
Okay.
I'm still looking for one from the passing game. I think a big difference from this team is actually, I'm going everywhere, and I apologize. It's because I'm sick. But I do want to bring this stat up. That was the worst loss that Lock Haven has had in 3 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The last time they had a loss that bad was against Shippensburg, 44-7. And I think that means something. And that means something because 3 years ago, this team won 1 game.
Yep.
Right? Next 2 years were 5-win seasons. We're predicted them to win 4. And I can recall a couple years ago how badly you wanted them to even be in a contention to win 4 games.
Oh, yeah.
And I think what we need as broadcasters, as podcasters, and as fans of this program is to put it into perspective that this is a new coach with a lot of young talent, and I think this team deserves, this coach deserves more patience for the product that they put onto the field. And it's going to be something that we tie in on both sides of the ball. And what we saw against IUP, where it's like, okay, this was the bottom. Let's see where we can improve. And that's going to be the main thing I take out of this game is, okay, when we come to the end of the season, how did they improve from IUP?
Yeah.
And how did they improve from Cal, which we'll talk about later. And we're just going to go from there.
And I think the big thing is, and it's something that I even didn't kind of didn't factor in when I talked about preseason with this team is how this team is a young team that it's probably not going to find its identity for about the first month of the season.
Only 6 of their 22 starters from last season return.
Exactly. So this is a team that is going to have a brand new identity from last year, and it's going to take them some time to figure out. We could be looking at this in a month and say the team that we're seeing now is much different than the team that lost this badly to IUP. This is a team that's going to grow throughout the season, which, unfortunately for them, their growing point is in their toughest games of the year. They're being forced to learn on the fly against the toughest opponents they're going to have in the first 6 weeks of the season. So it's a team that's going to look a lot different, I think, in about a month's time than what it does now. But it's going to be – they're going to have to take some lumps, I think, to get there because it's not going to be easy for them.
How much of, I guess you would call it – I'll change the subject, actually. We won't even go into there. But I actually want to bring it up now because for Lockhaven, how they performed on both sides of the ball were lacking.
Yeah.
If I were to find any sort of nugget to get out of this team is that there were individual performers that I think stood out to me. And I'm going to say now 3 parts of Lockhaven's performance that I feel better about going into week 3.
Okay.
And I genuinely feel better about it going into week 3. Number 1 is the wide receiver Justin Popovich for me. Popovich didn't have a catch against Glenville State. He wound up having 6 catches for 71 yards in this game. He had 3 catches in his entire collegiate career. One thing that we really talked about in the preview against IUP were receivers to step up. I thought that Popovich and Mekhi Watson off the bench stepped up.
Yeah.
And to me, those are going to be 2 incredibly key receivers going into the rest of the season. And I think Popovich has earned that title as the first wide receiver listed on the 2 deep because he made a lot of very impressive catches. He made a couple of balls that were out of his silhouette, made a couple receptions there. I can recall one diving attempt he wasn't able to haul in, but he was able to create separation, in my opinion, more than any other receiver.
Yeah.
And I am feeling much better about Popovich going into week 3 than I did going into week 2.
I agree. And Popovich played well, and he was open a lot of the times too. Like there were some balls that he was open and just wasn't able to wasn't able to make a catch, whether it be a missed throw or whether it be a drop. Like you said on that diving catch, he nearly brought it in. But I think the receiver group as a whole did well. Watson played really well. Deion King got a little bit of action there at the end, almost made a really, really nice kind of circus-level catch there right at the end of the game, wasn't able to bring it in. But I concur that I think the receiver room showed a bit more than what I thought, because it was a really good IUP defense that completely shut them down. Like their corners, they just played press man coverage and dared their receivers to get open. And really the big one that was able to find his way open a lot of the time was Popovich.
Number 2, person I was impressed with. I'm going to go with a bit of a weird one. It's hard to look at positives from a defense that gives up 42 points, but I'm going to go with Jayon Perry.
Yep.
IUP has a former Harlan Hill nominee at receiver in Maurice Massey.
Yep.
Massey going into the 4th quarter had just 2 catches. Now, there is a 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, because IUP's second, third, fourth targets were able to get separation, get open a ton. But I still think it means something to me, Ryan, where you've seen Jayon Perry do very well against Glenville State's number 1 and IUP's number 1 now in back-to-back weeks. And I think Jayon Perry is doing very well as a young defensive back in being able – because both games have been the same. He's been picking out the top receiver and saying, I'm going to guard you.
And he's been following him.
And it's not going to get easier this week because the next guy he's probably going to go after is Diave Johnson, a Texas transfer.
Yep.
So it's not going to get much easier for him, but I was impressed. I think 2 weeks in, I'm comfortable calling him CB1.
And the thing with Perry is it wasn't where he was playing on the left side of the field. He was covering the receivers. He was following him the entire game, both in Glenville and in IUP. He was following their number 1 guys. You mentioned he played really well in coverage. He was the one who ended up tipping the ball out, which led to the Troy Miller pick 6. He did a really good job in that game, and he's only a sophomore. Like, he's still got room to grow, and he's playing this well. There were some struggles in the secondary against IUP, but Jayon Perry was the bright spot of that team. of that side of the ball.
Just got an engineer into the building here as we're shooting our podcast. Hello, good to see you. One take, Drake. We're not cutting it. We're going to keep it moving here as we keep moving on. Okay, the final thing I was happy with. Listen, 42-10. You're looking for positives. Here's the last one for me. Listen, special teams. I was going to say one player, but I'm going to say special teams on both sides of the ball. I don't think they're going to lose you games. In terms of the kicker and punter. Kicker and punter solely are not going to lose you games, I think, this season. When you look at what they were able to do, Jimmy O'Brien, 2 punts inside of the 20, one that was inside of the 5, his third punt inside of the 20 this season. Now, only averaging 36 yards a punt this season. That's not going to blow anyone away.
No.
But he's getting now 3 punts inside of the 20. I think only one was an outright touchback that came against Glenville State. And then Caden Bauer had probably the most nightmare of a start you can have in your collegiate career. This is a true freshman. Missing his first extra point against Glenville State. Since then, he's been perfect on extra points, and now he's 2 for 2 on field goal attempts, and he drained a 42-yarder right down the middle that didn't have a lot more power in it, but when you're at the Division II level, I think you want a kicker that you can at least go to think, hey, can you bail us out here from the 30 inward? And I think Caden Bauer is that guy. You know, he sunk it from 42. He's now 2 for 2 with a 42 and a 22-yarder. I'm much more comfortable about the punter and kicker than I am concerned to week 1. And you can tell my thought process here, Ryan, because I'm going, okay, what was I thinking week 1? What am I thinking now going into week 3? Caden Bauer and Jimmy O'Brien, both I'm feeling better about.
And kicker last year was a spot where it was a real struggle. There were multiple times where it seemed like they might have to replace their starting kicker. They ended up not doing it. But Bauer, like you said, really impressed me. And Bauer's 42-yard field goal came after the offense had started from the ball inside the 20-yard line after the IUP fumble and lost about 10 yards. So you start in the 20-yard line. Bauer's thinking, all right, if I have to kick a field goal, it'll probably be at most 30 yards, comfortably within my range, whatever. Then you back it up 12 yards. And now you're putting all the pressure on him to right before the end of, I want to say the end of the half. It's got all the pressure. We've got to get some momentum going into the half. Can you bail out the offense? And he stepped up, and you said he nailed it. If you hung a string in the middle of the goal, if you hung a string in the middle of the goalpost, it would have hit it dead on. I mean, about as middle as a field goal can be. Bauer really impressed me. The one I will mention that you didn't mention is some of the freshmen on the defensive line played a big role as well. We saw guys like Justin Castro-Dixon get into the game. He saw some snaps last year, but not a ton. Benjamin Carey was one who really impressed me off the edge. Number 94, the true freshman from New Jersey, played really well.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? Do you want to know who had the most tackles on the defensive line in the game?
I would guess it was Carey.
That would be Jacure Maxim, the redshirt freshman. 3 tackles, 1.5 for loss, and a sack. So the redshirt freshman who backs up Blake Reisler, he is now second on the defensive line in tackles. Only Reese McDonald off of the edge has more tackles this season. Yeah. So not to interrupt.
No, and that's kind of the thing, right? Is they're starting to get some more guys some looks on the defensive line because the defensive line as a whole did well in run fit, but really struggled to get to the passer. They put almost no pressure on Reeve for most of that game. It was really when Carey came into the game that they started to get a little bit more push on the line. And Carey's push off the left side is what led to the pick 6 from Miller because Reeve was hurried a little bit, had to get the ball off a little earlier than he wanted. So that's the only other thing I would mention is that I was surprised to see some more faces get in and pleasantly surprised with how they played.
All right, closing thoughts, anything you want to bring up before we talk about Cal this week? Doesn't get much better.
No, and that's the thing is, again, it's a young team that's going to have to learn on the fly. There are some things they've got to clean up, especially offensively. There are some things that they're going to have to work through on how to find ways to move the ball against a defense that can put pressure on their quarterback. Glenville State didn't really put any pressure on Ostrowski at all, gave him a lot of time to throw, and he looked a lot more comfortable. IUP, especially in the interior of the defensive line, completely annihilated Lock Haven. I mean, there was nowhere to run for most of that game. So I think that's the big thing is this offense is going to have to figure out how they can move the ball if they can't run it. Because running is how they moved it against Glenville State, They're going to struggle running it against PSAC teams unless they can clean up some things on the line. But if they can't run the ball, they have to find another way to move it.
Looking at some team stats after 2 games, Lock Haven has the 3rd best rush defense in the PSAC, averaging 76 yards a game against. They have the 2nd worst pass defense, 333.0 yards given up there. They also have the 2nd worst passing offense, averaging 160 yards a game. Ryan, guess who is the worst passing offense in the PSAC?
Bloomsburg.
Their opponents this week.
Wow.
Cal PA, 8th in the country, has, coming into this, the worst passing offense in the PSAC, and that is because, for the first time this season, the Bald Eagles are playing a dual-threat quarterback.
Yeah.
That is going to be the modem for today. So, on Saturday, Lock Haven, it is the earliest they're going to wake up, assuming they're not taking a hotel. They are taking on the California University of Pennsylvania Vulcans, Cal PA. Coming in with a record of 2-0, they are the 8th-ranked team in the country, according to Lock Haven's website. I think the lowest I've seen them rank is like 12th or 13th, but they are a top 15 team, basically unanimously said. They have had an excellent start to the year, and they have a very versatile, I guess, 1-2 punch with their offense and defense. Coming into week number 3. They have a quarterback, the senior, a transfer out of Indiana, interestingly enough, Roman Purcell, who has 256 passing yards to just 2 interceptions, but 2 touchdowns on the ground and 118 rushing yards. The Vulcans played Westchester in week number 2, and Purcell would rush for 78 yards and 1 score. He has rushed for 40 yards or more in each game this season. Also, interestingly enough, it is the first time he is playing collegiate snaps in his career, his senior season with Cal PA. He is a transfer from Indiana, Monroe, and North Carolina A&T. That is the quarterback for Cal, and I think it pretty much says that this is a team in the Vulcans that gets it done on the ground. And I think we're going to see a very interesting dichotomy with this team in terms of you have Lock Haven, who did extremely well against Glenville State, did fine-ish, as fine as you can call it against IUP on the ground. Fine-ish is probably as good of a compliment you can get. And now you're taking on what, in my opinion, might be the best rushing attack in the entire PSAC. Big litmus test. On the opposite end, you've got Cal, who don't pass the ball. A chance for the secondary to prove that, they're better than the sums of their parts through 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what Coach Derasimo, the defensive coordinator's defense, is going to look like this week. Because if you remember last year when they played Westchester had a running quarterback last year. Ended up being the named all-second team PSAC East, if I'm not mistaken. And they did well. They did well enough at shutting him down. Westchester did go on to win the game. But I thought the Lock Haven defense did well with him running the ball. And they were able to kind of corral him a lot of the time and limit his ability. I don't know how that's going to look against Purcell because, again, like you mentioned, he's kind of a different caliber of runner. He's a really good runner as well, and this is a new team. They don't have Izzy Ramos, who they had last year being the quarterback spy a lot of the time. You have to assume that I don't know who else is going to fill that role. But it's going to be interesting for them to see how they're going to fit with a running quarterback. It's the first time we're seeing it this year. But it might give the secondary a little bit of a break, and it might give the front 7, which is the best part of this Lock Haven defense, is their front 7. It might give them a little bit more time to shine and maybe lead to a better defensive performance than they had last week.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
The 3 leading tacklers in terms of linebackers are for Lock Haven, Karan Walker, Rocco Doherty, Davian Vernon. Which of those 3 do you see potentially playing a spy, or do you give that to one of the safeties and go all out against the rush?
I think it's either going to be Vernon or it's going to be Markel Morgan. And Vernon was a safety. Vernon was a safety last year for Lock Haven. They ended up dropping him down to linebacker due to them not having a lot of depth at the position. So Vernon and Morgan are a little bit faster than Walker or Doherty are going to be. I'm assuming they're going to start with Vernon, and if it doesn't work, maybe switch it to Markel Morgan because they're going to want Morgan playing more back and being the captain of that secondary, which he has been so far this year. I think it's going to start with Vernon, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to guess that they're going to try to make the move to Morgan.
We forgot to bring this up when referencing Cal PA, but their results so far this season,
Yeah.
both games at home, just like IUP, their first 3 games are at home this season,
Yep.
which I find bizarre. 12th ranked Charleston, who are the team in the MEC every year. They would win 23-19. Shout out to Monsters Inc. Then last week they defeat Westchester 26-24. 2 1-possession games, a 4-point win and a 2-point win.
And that
what
Westchester
strikes me is whether or not Westchester is legit or not.
Well, because that Westchester was a come-from-behind victory. I mean, they were down for parts of that game.
Yes,
they
they were.
went on to win the game. We were watching the box score as we were getting ready for the IUP game last week. So it's could be a thing of two things. This could be a kind of a look-ahead game for Cal PA. They have a really important game coming up next after Lock Haven. So is this maybe that kind of trap game? But also, Cal is just a really good team. I mean, you mentioned it.
You don't want to get quoted again.
No, I don't.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Listen,
don't be taking stuff out of context now.
I'm just saying.
Slippery Rock, I know, is next week. Let's
Yeah.
not be the main character on some message
No,
boards
no.
again. I don't want that.
It would maybe be a little bit rash, but Cal's a really good team, and that's the only way you can put it. When you beat Charleston, you're a really good team, and they made the PSAC West championship game last year. They were in the NCAA tournament.
I can't help it. I'm sorry.
No, it's you're right. Gotta be careful with how I tread here, but Cal, it's going to be a rough game for Lock Haven. I think Cal's a really, really good team. They're a team that is poised to win the PSAC West again. I would consider them the favorite right now to win the PSAC West. It's really between them, Slippery Rock, and IUP. You throw those 3 in a blender. We'll see what one comes out on top at the end. But Cal's a really good team. And what that might be scary for Lock Haven is if it was that close against Westchester. Lock Haven plays Westchester at the end of the year. How good is Westchester? Do we need to consider maybe Westchester is also really good, and they got to be careful looking down the road. But again, the only thing I'll mention is in college football you see it a lot. It's called a look-ahead spot where a team like Cal, they've got Slippery Rock up next. That is the game that is probably going to decide who wins the PSAC West. It's the 2 best in the West right now going head-to-head in Slippery Rock. Does Cal maybe look at the result from last week with Lock Haven, maybe take a little bit off the gas, and maybe make it a closer game? Not saying that Lock Haven will win a closer game, but maybe it becomes a little bit of a closer game because of that. But it's going to be really tough, a really tough game.
Can't help myself sometimes. I had to hold back a lot there. But
Hey,
anyway.
I mean, we saw the stuff on the message boards. I think it's all in good fun. It never bothered me any. The thing of us being played in the locker room, I think that's cool. Honestly, if it's like we're the Stephen A. Smith now. We're giving motivation.
That is
out.
the worst thing you have ever said to me.
Hey, well, that's what
compare me to Stephen A. Smith.
I got compared to Stephen A. Smith by I think it was Owen. Owen was like, I was breaking stories and stuff, and he's like, I guess that's just the first. Or no, Skip Bayless. It's like that's the first reporter that comes to mind, and it's like that is the last person.
Yeah.
Skip even worse than Stephen A. Smith. I think Skip Bayless is like the last person I ever want to be. But I'm just talking in terms of like us throwing up a little bit of drama, which I find fun. I think it's fun.
Listen, I'm a school teacher. I don't want any of this smoke. I got enough stuff I got to do. I do this for fun. If you are watching this show, you have been paid the same amount I have for doing this.
Oh, yeah, we do this for free.
We do this for fun. We do it for free because we love it. That being said, if you want to sponsor, reach out to Dave.Stratton.
Yeah.
And no, reach out, see what you do. But, hey, anyway, plowing ahead. This is so off the rails sometimes.
Yes,
I apologize, and I blame my sickness for it. But I want to talk about – this is important, I think, for this game. The defensive side of the ball for Cal's done very well so far.
Yeah.
In the low 20s for points per game. Alexi Sangster Jr. is the first that really comes up to mind for me, Ryan, because he's got 2 interceptions this season, an interception in each game, including 5 tackles against Westchester. Linebackers, just a ton of experience. There's only one transfer starter on this team, and it's on the edge with Daniel Long, a transfer from Slippery Rock, and even he, I think, played last season for Slippery Rock. So a lot of experience. That defensive core knows each other. Didn't have to make a lot of changes to the 2 deep just entirely. And this secondary is going against this passing offense for Lock Haven, led by Jackson Ostrowski. Now, against Cal last season, he had, in my opinion, his second best game.
Yeah.
24 for 45, 346 yards, 2 touchdowns, Ryan. if there is ever a chance to get a get back, I don't know if Cal is going to be the team for that, but you're coming off of back-to-back games where the passing offense had under 200 yards.
Yep.
Ostrowski's done that once going into this season.
Yeah.
You're looking for some way to get some confidence. Cal doesn't seem like the team for me. I think you're asking for too much if you want improvement in the passing game against the 8th-ranked team in the country. That being said, I want to see what Popovich is made of against the best, because there's such a, well, Kutztown might still be, who knows, Kutztown might be better than Cal in the end, but the second best, at very least, opponent they're going to play this season, Ryan, I need to see improvement in this passing game.
Yeah, and looking at the Cal defense, I'm looking up Charleston's schedule here. Cal held them to 19 points. Charleston, their other 2 games versus Livingstone College, 39 points. And then they played the University of West Alabama, and they scored 24 points. So that's a really good Charleston offense that Cal held to 19. And this Cal defense, like you mentioned, is really, really good. It's a lot like IUP to me from last week, where we talked about how IUP was returning a lot of their starters, a lot of continuity, especially in the secondary. There was not a lot of changes made, so it was going to make it hard on Lock Haven. It's the same thing here. Like you mentioned, Ostrowski in that passing offense is going to have to find a way to be better, whether it be trying to draw up some more creative plays to scheme guys open, because guys weren't really getting open on their own against IUP. Need to be a little bit more accurate from Ostrowski. He really struggled last game, and I think a lot of that was because the hits he took early on. I mean, he got rocked sometimes in that game against IUP. He was on the ground a lot of the time. The offensive line is going to have to be on their P's and Q's. They even talked about it in week 1 against Glenville State. I had a quote from Coach Battaglia at the end of the game that basically said we missed a lot of assignments in that game, but it didn't matter. They had a lot of his missed assignments, but the line did well enough that it led to them having 200-plus yards on the ground. Well, they had the same issue against IUP, and IUP made them pay for it. And this
you can make mistakes against Glenville State that won't work against the IUP and Cal's.
No, it won't. And Cal will also, and IUP punished them for it, and Cal's going to punish them for it. So there's a lot that this offense has to figure out in the next. Well, now it's Thursday, so in the next 2 days before they go to play Cal PA, they've had a week to scheme some new stuff up. I'm just interested to see if it looks different. If the passing offense looks different than it did last week, because it has to. It has to if they want to find a way to win.
I think that's a good transition before we get into our predictions for the game to do this. So I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to go first with my 3. I'm looking for these are the 3 things I'm going to look for the most.
Yeah.
In order of importance for me.
Okay.
Number 3 was the pass game. We already brought it up. Passing game, I want to see improvement. Number 2, the passing defense.
Yeah.
We're coming on a very rough spell, an all-time performance from an IUP quarterback, and now I want to see how this secondary can bounce back. And I think what was most concerning to me at times, I mean, I can recall they had one drive IUP where they went 97 yards to the crib.
Yep.
Second drive of the game. And then they had another drive after throwing a pick 6 where they would score 2 plays in. So they did a little bit of everything. So Lockhaven gave up the long ball. They also gave up a lot of the ticky-tacks, and it all mostly came from the passing game, notably because IUP would have some good productive runs. I don't have the yards per play, yards per rush in front of me, but I would say that they probably averaged about 5 or 6 yards a carry, IUP. They only had 1.4 yards a carry? That doesn't make sense.
I'm assuming is that factoring in a sack in there somewhere, maybe?
Yes, that does factor in
was somewhere,
a couple of sacks. Yeah.
Like if you look at the starting running backs, like they had, I think one had,
not too much actually. I'm sorry, Tavion Banks, their starting tailback, had 1.8 yards a carry. Maybe this rushing defense is, I don't know. We'll see.
It kind of seemed like during the game that they just didn't run a lot. So maybe we're thinking like we have the 2 running plays where they ran for like 5 yards.
The 2 leading ball carries. Leon Parsons, 6 carries, 18 yards, 2.8 a carry. Tavion Banks, 5 carries, 9 yards, 1.8.
Yeah.
Did we I'm sorry. Listen, we're doing this live, folks. Did we completely miss the – okay, now there is the obvious Randy Washington, 2 carries for 13 yards, so he did good. Did we miss a factor in this game that maybe, hey, okay, I mean, listen, they threw it they still threw it in the air 365 times, 5 touchdowns. I'm not looking Okay, extra factor. Let's see if this rush defense is legit. Listen, this is going to be the litmus test in terms of the rush, so we'll see.
When that's an IUP offensive line, too, that was really young. But I think you and me looked at it because I thought they had more, frankly.
Yeah.
I think you and me kind of looked at it
I would have guessed like 4 to 5 yards a carry.
I would have said 4.5.
Not 1.8.
I think a lot of it was, like, they just didn't run the ball a lot. Like, they had, like, maybe 13 attempts in total. Like, they didn't run the ball a lot. And they had a lot of different guys run the ball. There were 7 or 8 guys that got a carry in that game. So it was kind of just you remember those 5 or 6 yard gains that happened 3 or 4 times in a row, and you kind of fiddled everything else out of your memory because they just didn't run the ball enough to kind of make that a point. But yeah, no, that rushing defense, I must have played a lot better. And again, I said that the front 7 is the best part of this unit, and they did well against the run, but I did not think it was that well.
Anyway, okay, 3 factors.
Yeah.
We are all over. I am all over the place, not you. My apologies. Number 3, need more passing offense. Number 2 was the secondary. Number 1, this is the most important. By the second half, it felt like we were playing in slow motion at times.
Yeah.
We need to, especially actually in the first half, that's when they gave up 28 points. There needs to be a level of play difference.
Yeah.
Something to feel like it felt like they were in slow motion at times in that game, just going through the motions, and I need to see a bit more than that against Cal. And that's the most important thing for me, to see that they are willing to put that progress in and continue to work to try to make this a productive season.
Alrighty, so for me, I'll say my number 3 is, do we see some new faces in the secondary? Because you mentioned it, the secondary has been really picked on a lot through the first 2 games of the year. Glenville State had almost 300 yards. I think they had exactly 299 yards passing, so just a clip under 300. IUP obviously goes for 365. They have some other transfers. They brought in a lot of defensive back transfers in the offseason, including a guy from Temple. They have Q McMillan, who's there on the bench. They have Ja'Kai Bogarty, a former all-PSAC safety, who's sitting on the bench. Do we see some of those guys fill in the secondary? Do we see a bit more of a rotation as they try to kind of find who their core 4 is going to be? Because there was a few times in the IUP game, there's the one that I distinctly remember, where a corner and a safety, I cannot remember their names, were effectively tied at the hip 20 yards down the field. Like it looked like they were both covering the same area of the field the entire way. And there was a lot of miscommunications in that game, and even against Glenville State as well. The secondary had a lot of issues of who was covering where. So I'm interested to see if there's a little bit of a change there. Number 2 for me, you mentioned it. I want to see some more. Creativity might not be the right word in the offense, but there has to be a spark of life in the offense somewhere, because it was about as dead in the water as it could be against IUP. I mean, they struggled to move the ball a yard down the field. It kind of looked like, that question that people get of, like, could an average person gain a yard in the NFL? And the answer is no. There's a lot of times where it looked like Lock Haven was really struggling to gain 5 yards at a time. I mean, the offense felt like it was in 3rd and long every drive. And again, that is also just the IUP defense is really, really good. So it makes it hard on an offense to do well. But even against Glenville State, there were times where they really struggled. So I want to see some more out of this offense. And this is an offense that, again, led the PSAC in passing yards by a country mile last year. It's there. The offense is there for it to work. It just has to kind of have the pieces fall into place. It hasn't done so yet in the passing game especially. I want to see a little bit more against Cal. And the big one for me is just I want to see the team that we saw last year, that no matter how much of a talent difference there was, it never really felt like they were out of a game. The only game that it really felt like when you started the 4th quarter that they didn't have life in was the game against Kutztown. And that was a Kutztown team that, much like IUP, just completely smothered them the entire way through. But you saw it against IUP last year. You saw it against Cal last year. You saw the game against Shepherd a year ago, where no matter how bad the score was, it always felt like Lock Haven had a way to get back into the game, and they always did. It was always the one-possession finishes. The heart attack Bold Eagles was kind of their mantra last year. I want to see that again. I want to see it to where it's the 4th quarter and you're thinking, is there a way, there's a way they can get back into this game. If they thread a needle, they can get back into it. We didn't have it last week. I want to see that amount of fight in the team return.
Man, Welcome to your stage here, man.
Yeah, because they even had it. They even had it against Glenville State, where there were times where it felt like, could the game slip away from them, and it never did. They found it, so the team has it. It's there, where their back was against the wall against Glenville State, and they found a way to win. I want to see that again. Maybe not finding the way to win part, but it's more of just find a way to stay in it. Like, be competitive to the end. I think if they're able to do that against what is the best or the second best team in the PSAC, I'm going to feel a lot better moving forward, where it's like when they play the Millersvilles and the Shippensburgs, that I can sit here and confidently say I think they're going to win.
Score predictions, I'm not going to give an exact score because I don't want to be discussion post fodder again, even though I said they were won by multiple possessions. Cal is going to win this game from my view. And it's very bizarre to me because when I try to predict how Lock Haven is going to play, it's a lot of I hope they do this. I hope they do this, not if they're going to do this. So I'm going to predict a similar, probably possible type of score against IUP. And it's going to be up to what they do, especially in the second half. That tells me how this team can raise its ceiling going forward. And that is my very vague prediction, and it'll probably be the same thing against East Stroudsburg next week.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat, where it's exactly what I said against IUP last week. If Lockhaven is going to win this game, it's going to have to be defensively. They're going to have to force Cal off the field. They're going to have to set their offensive up in favorable positions, whether it be off turnovers or forcing a lot of punts deep into Cal territory. It's the only way I think that Lockhaven is able to find a way to win this game. Candidly, it's kind of hard when it's the first few weeks of the season because we don't really know what the team is right now. They've played one non-PSAC school, and then they played one of the best PSAC schools back-to-back. So you don't really know because they haven't played a team kind of on their level yet. And Glenville might prove to be. Glenville ended up beating Millersville last week. So Glenville is currently on the caliber of a lower-tier PSAC school right now. But I want to see where this Lock Haven team is. I agree with you. I think Cal's going to win. Right now, I'd say it's probably also by multiple possessions. I just think that Cal is one of the best teams in the region. And not even in the region. They're one of the best teams nationally in Division II. This is a team that, don't be shocked when we're at the end of the year and they're in the Final Four or they're in the Final Eight of the NCAA tournament. I mean, this is a really good Cal team. It's a really kind of well-steeped in tradition Cal team. They know what they are. They know what kind of offense, defense, and special teams they want to be. They know how they want to play. It just doesn't feel like Lock Haven knows what their identity is right now. And in that case, I'm always going to say that the team that knows what they are is the team that I'm going to think is going to win.
Now 4-4 in their last one-possession games in their last 2 years, Lock Haven. I don't think this will be one of those, but I think when you're looking for an identity, you're looking for a team that knows how to win. And while I think the talent discrepancy is too much, when we start taking on teams like Bloomsburg and Shippensburg and Millersville, maybe this will be a team that knows how to win.
And again, I think it's.
Go ahead.
I would say I think it's the big thing of where it's. Yeah, I mentioned it before that this is a team that doesn't know what it is right now, and it's when you have a young group, and this is the first we mentioned it. This is the first year that they're really truly building through their own recruiting classes. The last few years, it's been a lot of portal guys having big impacts. Chris Collier, Tier Young, Jackson Ostrowski, who's still in the team, but especially last year, Ostrowski. And those were three guys that they acquired through the transfer portal. They weren't their guys to a certain degree. They weren't guys that got out of high school. They developed as redshirt freshmen to then deploy later on in their careers. This is the first year they're doing that. So the team doesn't really feel like it did last year where you knew what they wanted to do right now. And it's probably going to take the first month or two of the season for this team to figure out what they're going to be. And again, unfortunately, that culminates with their hardest month of the schedule is right now, and that's where they're going to have to find out who they are. But I think it's a team that when you look back 2 months down the road, it's going to feel a lot different because it's going to feel like they found out who they are.
I'll end it with this. Of the 24 starters, including kicker and punter, 6 are in their final year of eligibility, and even 2 of those I think might have next year. That tells you the youth of this team.
It's a building year for them.
No doubt, and they'll look to build again this Saturday. You can catch the game live on the Bear Country Sports Network at 10:30 in the morning. You'll be hearing this one again, this show. 11:30 in the morning will be the pregame show. Will be live from California, early morning for us, huh?
Yes, it will
right
be.
after Jersey Shore on Friday. And then 12 is the kickoff between Lock Haven and Cal PA. And the night before, Friday night, Jersey Shore looking for their get-back against Shikellamy. Coverage starts 6:30, 7 o'clock kickoff on the Bear. But that's going to wrap things up for Ryan States. I'm Nicholas Severini. You've been listening to the Haven Nation Show.